lot of hair. I hope the camera lens is wide enough because hey, hi, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 6, Episode 4. And before I get started, I just want to send a big old shout out to Denise Cherneau. This is her latest work. Fabulous wig. I just love it. If you have a chance, I have her Instagram link for her wigs and her artwork down below. So check it out. Also, while you're down there, while you're down below, why not give this video a thumbs up now? Because you know you're going to love it. Come on. And why not subscribe to my channel if you haven't already? And if you have, thank you so much. I totally appreciate it. It really helps me get my video out there for more people to see. Now, before we get started, I've got a tipper due to thank. Kevin Harrigan from Boston sent me some love, and I want to send some back because Kevin lost his partner of 33 years in 2018 and his mother in 2019. Kevin, it is my absolute honor to have been able to help you through these difficult times. Just remember, the hardest goodbyes always reflect our biggest loves. Seriously. You have been and you still are loved, my darling. Mwah. We also have some fabulous Redbubble models. This here is Danina in her Pride shirt. This here is April and the Tiger Lily showing off April's new Pride mugs. I also want to send a shout out to Deirdre D. Johnson in her fabulous Wilma Pride shirt. Deirdre sent this picture a while back and I didn't see it because it was on Facebook. Not on Facebook a lot. So I apologize, Deirdre. I hope you weren't thinking I was missing out on you, seriously. Also, this here is Ted Morris, aka Wilhelmina Box Farts, my illegitimate drag daughter, and her fabulous boyfriend of 21 years, Jeffrey Mason, showing off their Wilma Pride shirts. I also want to send a shout out to James S. Many of you may know him already from the YouTube comments section. His avatar is him wearing a red hat. It's a drawing in a red baseball cap. Anyway, he sent me these two fabulous pictures. The Divine Miss W he sent this past week, but the Jorge Drink Me is one he sent a while back. And I don't know why I didn't share it then, but I'm sharing it now. Thank you, James. These are gorgeous. Seriously. If you see James on the YouTube comments, give him a little bit of love, why don't you? Seriously. I also have an interesting shout out to make to Ivan E. Roth, aka Chexy Decimal. For those of you old enough to remember the 80s classic Night of the Comet, well, he played Willie, king of the Stock Boy Zombies, and, well, he follows me, and I couldn't be more flattered. So, hey, Ivan, seriously. Now, it's time for my favorite part. Jorge, drink me! Ooh. Back to the Coke Zero, are we? Oh, I thought it was going to be a sophisticated lady, but this has tequila in it. Makes her a bit more of a sloppy lady, I'm just saying. Not that there's anything wrong with being sloppy. Okay, the queens kicked this episode off by congratulating Trinity for not making it easy for Laganja to assassinate that lip sync. And although she was sorry not to win the cash tip, Trinity seemed okay to lose to such a gag-worthy queen. Here's the Trinity. She kept up, I'll tell you what. Everyone else wanted to get to the bottom of that dark, hateful box. And, well, they weren't talking about Pandora either, which is good because she was sitting right there. Seriously. It was a close race between Akira and Silky's lipsticks, with Silky losing by 2 votes. One less vote for Silky, and it would have been a tie. Has there ever been a tie? What would we do if there was a tie? Seriously. The queens were pretty forthcoming about who they voted for. Ginger, Eureka, Raja, and Trinity admitted to voting for Akira. And regardless of their reasons, Akira took the news like a champ. It's just been all part of the game. Good for Akira. Seriously. As the queens de-dragged, Jan admitted to being frustrated at not being more than just safe, poor thing. Although, her saying she's ready to release all the wrath within her and show the judges more had me worried. Is she saying there's more? That this was Jan holding back? Oh, honey. Not strong enough. Seriously. The next day in the workroom, the queen serenaded Silky's departure with a rousing chorus of "Let It Shine" before wiping her lipstick message, Black Lives Matter, off the mirror. As the queens reflected on the last critique with the judges, Ginger said it was the kick in the butt that she needed, while Jan went off on some "Ginger and I weren't lipstick eligible" rant. Call it what you want. Akira made it clear that Jan was still in the bottom. Just saying. But before a debate on the matter could get started, there was Rue's video message to save the day. Fall of Fame, showstopper. Needless to say, this week's message piqued the Queen's ears, so when Ru showed up, they were ready to listen. And boy, did they have a lot to listen to. This week's Maxi Challenge was the All-Star 6 Hall of Fame halftime show. The Queens would be revisiting some of RuPaul's greatest hits in the style of performers who've graced Super Bowl halftime shows of yore. Well, apparently, the Queens already picked their Super Bowl performer to impersonate, so all that was left for them to learn was choreography with Jamal Sims. Right away, the Queens got to work, although what they had to work on was beyond me. Seeing as how they'd already chosen their celebrity to impersonate and they were lip-syncing to a pre-recorded track, the only thing I could see them having to work on was memorizing lyrics until their choreography session with Jamal Sims. Well, apparently, I was wrong. First things first, all the Queens shared who they were portraying. Shakira was going to do Prince. Prince? Narrow hip little Prince? Okay. Speaking of male characters, Kylie's Sonique Love was going to be Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. I have to tell you, I was more surprised to hear that Trinity didn't know who Steven Tyler was. Am I that old? Raja was going to boss it out with Diana Ross. Trinity was finally going to put that money where her flipper is and portray Beyonce, and I, for one, was looking forward to it. Pandora was going to do Carol Channing, who, believe it or not, performed at 2 halftime shows. The first at Super Bowl IV in 1970 and the second at Super Bowl VI in 1972. Look it up. Thanks to my Patreoners for sharing that tea with me, by the way. Mwah. Scarlett's choice was Katy Perry, which I personally couldn't see, but I love Scarlett, so I was there for it. Jan surprised me by picking Lady Gaga. I thought for sure she would do Madonna and redeem her last performance. Not that I thought she did a bad job. She just clearly thought she did better. Seeing as that left Madonna up for grabs, Eureka claimed it. Good for her. Yara announced that she was doing Shakira, and that left Ginger Minj, whose choice was Fergie. Really? Fergie? Not only was Ginger doing Fergie a surprise to me, Ginger's Fergie was also going to open the halftime show, which apparently was a surprise to her. As the Queens got their costumes together, Jan waxed poetic about how Gaga was her #1 diva. Didn't she just say that about Madonna on season 12? Or was it that she just acted like it? Shakira and Scarlett went over their game plans. As Prince, Shakira seemed to have the look down, but was more excited about playing a guy, especially one that didn't conform to gender roles. Shakira's main goal was to impress the judges enough to distance her from being in the bottom last week. Well, that's as good a plan as any. Raja seemed to have Diana Ross's wig down, which is clearly 90% of the look, so good for her. Trinity was focused on breaking the Beyonce curse. Apparently, every queen who's tried to play Beyonce has failed miserably. Plus, she really wanted to show Bianca Del Rio that she wasn't Sammy Davis Jr. in a Beyonce wig. Seriously. The one thing that did have Trinity worried was Pandora's Carol Channing. Not only does she do a great Carol Channing, but Ru loves the old school impersonations and was predicting an easy win for Ms. Box. Well, I'm sure Ms. Box liked hearing that. And then it was time for choreography with that old basement flutter himself, Jamal Sims. Ginger's Fergie was first, and the fact that Ginger's love for Jamal already made her feel like the most delicate dancing flower aside, there was nothing about Fergie that's iconically Fergalicious, if you ask me. So Ginger was going to have to give it all the attitude Jamal could lay on her. I'd let him lay a few things on me, I'll tell you what. Shakira's Prince was next, and poor Ms. Shakira looked defeated before she even started. So why would she pick someone who's known for their dancing in the first place? For the most part, Jamal seemed to keep this choreography accessible for Shakira, so I wasn't too worried for her. Jan seemed to have no problems where Jamal's Gaga choreo was concerned, much to the chagrin of the other queens. Seriously. I was so surprised by Yara Sofia during her choreography session, and yet I really wasn't. Jamal had some good moves and great notes, but Yara seemed to know better. Even Shakira herself, I'm sure, wouldn't argue with her choreographer. I'll bet you money on that. You could see the other queens picturing Yara landing in the bottom with an attitude like that, and, well, they seemed okay with it. Thank goodness Trinity's Beyonce was next. Or She soon would be if Trinity just stopped flirting with Jamal. I'm so serious. Did y'all see that? I almost left the room to give them privacy. Seriously. And then they got down to the choreography and everyone was worried. Jan was just downright gagged. And then it was Elimination Day, and more than a few of the queens had spent a late night working on their moves. Kylie, on the other hand, worked on Raja's nose hairs. Who else remembers the first time they had their nose hairs trimmed? No one? What about your ears? Speaking of Raja, she, Trinity, and Shakira bonded over Trinity's need to be the trade of the season and Shakira's inability to dance as well as she did in her head. All in all, these queens had a big old laugh fest, which was a good way for them to release the pressure of the upcoming Maxi Challenge. But for Trinity, it was more than that. She was bonding with these queens and making friends, and that's something Trinity really didn't seem to do on season 6. Here's to Trinity. Seriously. While all that was going on, Ginger was fretting about her makeup and trying to soften that contour so Michelle wouldn't read her for it a second time. Personally, I thought she looked way better. And then it was on to the runway. I just about gagged when I saw Ru. She looks stunning. This has to be put on my fave list of her dresses for sure. Not only because it wasn't tiered like her last 3 dresses, but the color was fabulous. It showed off her legs and that wig. Oh, seriously. Here's to Zaldi. Well done. Well, and Ru, because, well, she wore it. Michelle was looking lovely, if not a little lackluster, in her green. Michelle wearing green on purpose? I don't know why she doesn't like green. She looks good in it. Seriously. Carson looked great in his red and black satin jacket, and joining them this week was the beyond delicious Jamal Sims, who, well, looks good no matter what he's wearing. I'd lick that bald head is what I tell you. First up was the All-Star 6 Hall of Fame halftime show. Ginger kicked this Megillah off with her Fergie, which takes me back because my first one-woman show was called Off With Her Fergie. I thought Ginger did a good job. To tell the truth, she could have been anyone during that number, but she did a great job and her makeup looked fabulous. Eureka's Madonna was next. She did a great job too. I can see why we didn't see her rehearsing with Jamal because her number was mostly arm choreography, but she looked good doing it. Raja's boss, Diana Ross, was next, and, well, this was another performance that was okay. Don't get me wrong, she didn't do a bad job, but we have seen better. No offense. Yara Shakira was the first disappointment for me. Although her moves were good, there was no energy in her eyes. I felt like she was at a dress rehearsal. Just me? Scarlett did a better Katy Perry than I was expecting, especially since I was expecting her to do the whole thing in that shark costume, but she didn't and was still adorable, although, like Ginger Minj, Scarlett could have been doing anyone for me. Well, that sounds dirty. And then Kylie's Steven Tyler took the stage. Well, this was the first jaw-dropper for me. I thought Kylie absolutely killed this performance. Here's to Kylie, seriously. Jan's Gaga was next, and I have to say, I wasn't that impressed. Don't get me wrong, I thought she did a good job, but she's another one who could have been any singer for me. It didn't really scream Gaga, but she danced the hell out of it, I'll tell you what. I thought Akira's Prince looked good, but I think she tried too hard. There was something too big about the movements she was doing, but she certainly didn't suck, just saying. Pandora was another one who killed this challenge. Her Carol Channing was perfection, and, well, although she didn't have any big dance moves, the ones she did have were perfect. I mean, I thought she was going to fall running up those stairs, didn't you? And then Trinity's Beyonce took the stage, and I clutched everybody's pearls. She took my breath away. From the head movements to the body movements, I thought she did a great job and was a definite standout of the night for me, just saying. And before we review the runway, can I take a moment just to give a cheers to the singers who recorded those tracks? I thought they all did a great job. Well done, everybody. Sure. Category is the frills of it all. Ginger went old school ruffles, and I loved her for it. She felt she was serving Gone with the Wind realness, while all I could think of was that she was hiding a big old roll of toilet paper under there. Fingerdoo for Ginger. If frills are what you want, frills are what you got from Eureka, especially with that cover-up. I love this look, although It was a little plain compared to some of the things Eureka's worn in the past. Still, I gave it a Fingerdoo too. Raja's frills gave me all kinds of chills. I loved this whole look and had no problem giving her a Fingerdoo as well. Seriously. Yara Sofia looked good, but I think she was getting fringe mixed up with frills because this dress was like shopping for discount groceries in Toronto, Canada. No frills. Am I the only one who shops there? Also, did anyone else understand her explanation for this outfit? I sure as hell didn't. I mean, I tried, but I just ended up with a headache. So I hate to say it, finger don't for Yara. I love Scarlett's runway because that hat was everything. So were her stoned lips. I've had stoned lips before. There's a cream for it. Fingerdoo for Scarlett. Kylie Sonique Love looked luscious in her frills. So did her boobs, no offense. So I had no trouble giving her a Fingerdoo. Just saying. Jan's frills were unique. I wasn't a fan of the color for this runway, but it didn't make her look any less frilly, so I gave her a Fingerdoo. Seriously. I really like Pandora's runway, but it could have been way more frilly if you ask me, so I had to give her a Fingerdoo. Hey, if I'm going to not give one to Yara, then I can't give one to Pandora. I'm just saying. Trinity's dress looked more ruched to me than frilly. Not that she didn't look fabulous, just the same. I just thought it was a shame that the only place that I could really see frills on that dress was on the train, but at least they were there, so I gave her a baby Fingerdoo. Just saying. And then Shakira took the stage. I couldn't tell you if this runway had frills on it or not because I think I passed out for a minute there. This was beyond stunning. I loved that it had 3 stages to it. A huge cover-up, then an oversized collar, and then that full skirt. And those frilled petals were showstoppers, so I couldn't give her anything less than a Fingerdoo, I'm just saying. And then it was time for the judges' critiques, but not before Ru complimented their performances by calling them all superstars. She's not wrong. And then she announced that Raja, Kylie, Scarlett, and Pandora were all safe, so they freaked the hell out of there. Who wouldn't? Kylie was happy to be safe because it meant that they liked both her performance and her runway. This was Pandora's 4th time in a row being safe, and, well, she seemed okay with that, too. Raja seemed to be the only one who was actually disappointed to be safe. It sounds like she thought her Diana Ross was better than it was. Bless. Once in the Untucked Lounge, the queens congratulated each other for making it through another week. None of them could tell who was in the top or who was in the bottom because everyone killed their performances, so they thought it would all boil down to runway. Kylie felt that this could be Jan's week, finally, and both Scarlett and Raja agreed, although Raja did point out that Trinity killed it as well and quickly pointed out to the other queens that if she was the top queen this week, that they better congratulate her right away or suffer another one of her reads. She ain't lying. Speaking of praise, Kylie wanted some for taping her luscious titties into her armpits for her drag king debut as Steven Tyler. And while she was at it, she revealed that her drag king name was now Oliver Closeoff. Here's to Oliver. In honor of their newfound friendship, Raja brought up to Scarlett that they were both in the bottom this episode of their season and that Raja had sent Scarlett home. Brought up being the operative word because Scarlett almost threw up then and there. Here's to improving and, well, not throwing up. As for who might be in the bottom, well, Scarlett was worried for Yara. Her runway had no frills no matter how you looked at it. But the bigger question seemed to be, who was flirting with Jamal during their rehearsal? Raja owned up to a little side flirt, while Kylie admits, well, that she flirts with just about everybody. But they all agreed that Trinity was cutting more than her eyes at Jamal. Hell, she even got Jamal tattooed on her arm. Of course, that's a different Jamal. But nobody needs to know that. Say it. Speaking of flirting, the queens had to talk about the backup dancers. Well, I think everybody's basement flooded this week. There was something for everyone, I'm so serious. Kylie went off on a tangent that surprised me. She talked about how much she loves Ru's laugh. Apparently, they had a big old Super Bowl wing party in the workroom with a healthy side of Kiki that we didn't see in the episode, and Ru just about laughed the house down. Personally, I've never heard anything so fake in my life. But then I'm not looking for Ru to give me a check for $100,000, so... Just saying. I have to say, the Safe Girls got really chatty in the Untucked Lounge this week. Raja shared that she realized that she used to get in her own way all the time because of her attitude and anger, and it was watching herself on season 11 that helped her see the error in her ways. I'm so glad that she did too, because I'm loving this new and improved user-friendly version of Raja. So here's to self-improvement and more growth, I'm just saying. Back on the main stage, the top and bottom queens were getting their critiques. Ginger was first, and for the most part, the judges weren't feeling very Fergie-licious about her performance, but they loved her runway, and Michelle took a moment to compliment her on her makeup. So she should. Ginge looked gorge. Seriously. Eureka was next, and everyone loved her Madonna and the humor she brought to it. Carson, in particular, loved her ruffled chaps. All the judges felt there was a disconnection between Yara and her Shakira, which sounds painful. They felt she wasn't in it 100%. As for the runway, Carson liked it, but felt his eyes needed a vacation, which is a nice way of saying, what the hell are you wearing? Next up was Jan, and this was the critique she'd been waiting a lifetime for. All the judges praised her Lady Gaga, and Carson and Jamal even created a new word for her, Jandetta, because that's what Jan needs, another personalized word. Akira was next, and right away Jamal acknowledged that she had a hard time capturing Prince's nuances in his dance moves, while Michelle just couldn't say enough about her runway. She called it A+ drag, while Ru called her a superstar. It's 2 superstars from Ru this season. Last but not least was Trinity, and the judges could not say enough about how perfect her Beyonce was. They went on and on so much, it even seemed to piss off Jan. As for her runway, Michelle felt it was on the simpler side, even though she looked spectacular in it. And then Ru announced that Jan was the top star of the week. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that that surprised me. I thought for sure Trinity won it, but then it's not called Wilma's Drag Race, is it? Just saying. The bottom queens this week were less of a surprise to me. Yara and Akira got that dubious honor, and with that, the queens headed off to the workroom where Jan was congratulated on finally winning a challenge. Here's to Jan. Let's hope that calms her down just a tad, seriously. It won't. As for Akira and Yara, the other queens were sympathetic. While Akira had her one-on-one with Jan, she admitted how upset she was being in the bottom. She was really hoping to break the slump she's been in these last few weeks. As for the other queens, they felt that Yara got the toughest critiques from the judges, and Yara did nothing to make them think otherwise. They really felt like her fight was gone. And she did nothing to change that with her one-on-one with Jan, although I do feel for someone who doesn't beg, Yara did a little bit of begging. A little. So, after the queens voted, it was back to the main stage where this week's lip-sync assassin was revealed to be Jessica Wilde. I, for one, was very happy to see Miss Jessica. I really liked her on season 2. Although, I will say, I thought she looked a whole lot like Brooklyn Heights there. Just me? I thought that Jan went into this lip-sync thinking that she had it in the bag, but Jessica clearly lip-synced that house down. Her hairography was flawless, and her energy was through the roof. You could see Jan feeling the wind slipping from her, and even though she stepped it up, it wasn't enough. In my opinion, Jessica was lip-syncing like the $20,000 on the line was hers for the taking. So, when the music died, the only one who seemed surprised that Jessica had won was Jan. And whose lipstick did Jessica have? I'm not surprised that it was Yara Sofia. What did surprise me was Yara telling everyone to F off as she sashayed away. Ru seemed to think it was funny, but I, for one, don't think Yara was kidding. Either way, Ru still had a video message for Yara inviting her to the game within a game, so it's not the last we'll see of her. I'm so serious. Well, what do you think? Did the right queen get the chop? Should Akira have gone instead? What about Ginger Minj? Should she have been in the bottom instead of one of the other queens? Is Akira on an inevitable road to getting chopped next? All we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars next week to see how it all plays out. And then, when you're done, you come on back and you see me so we can compare notes. Now, don't forget to like this video if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And don't forget to look in the description box below for links to my Redbubble page, Rainbow Railroad, Tipper Dues, All of it. It's all there. Have a look. And until next week, miss me! Mwah, seriously. Oh my God, I hope Jen takes a big deep breath and relaxes now that she's finally won a challenge. Personally, I think Trinity was robbed. I mean, no offense to Jen, but Kylie and Trinity, they stole the show this week, I'll tell you what. And they both had good board runways, although I don't think Trinity's really had many frills on it. Frills. Are frills another word for ruffles? Does it have to be ruffles? I mean, sparklers are a frill. I don't want one on my dress.